MJ, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this really nice lace mesh stitch crop cardigan. So the yarn that I'm using is Comfy worsted weight yarn in white, and this yarn is 75% Pima cotton and 25% acrylic, and it is so nice, and it would be on the lighter side of a worsted, so it really works up nice and light. And I'm using 2 crochet hook sizes, my G plus 4.5 millimeter, and that is for the lace pattern, and also the 4 millimeter G hook for our ribbing. This cardigan will be worked flat, all in one piece, so you're gonna love this design. It works up really quick and we have limited seaming involved. So I'm beginning at the back band with the 4 millimeter crochet hook. So what we'll do is start out with a chain 11. Okay, so I've chained 11. Now we'll work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So 1, 2, and we're just working single crochets across. Now, if you're a beginner, I do have some beginner tutorials that you can watch. This video will basically work you through each of the steps of the pattern, but I suggest following along with the PDF. Even if you're not used to reading patterns, it's a good idea just to follow along so that you can start learning how to read a pattern and how it's laid out. I always provide lots of pictures and lots of extras in those PDFs. And this pattern will also come in your size X small to 5X. So I'm working on our small size today. I'll chain 1 and turn, and our ribbing is all worked in the back loops only. So we're working a single crochet through the back loop of the stitch. So we're working a total of 10 stitches for the band. You want to make sure to count that you're not losing a stitch. Another tip for that is adding a stitch marker to your first and last stitch to make sure that you're not losing them. But when it's only 10 stitches, it's not a lot of stitches just to count each row so that you stay on track. Sometimes that last little one can get tucked in there. So now our stitch pattern is worked in a multiple of 5 plus 2. So for the small size cardigan, I'm going to be working a total of 82 rows. So 80 would be our multiple of 5, and then I'm adding 2. So I'm going to go ahead and just work up a smaller swatch to show you the stitch pattern. So I'm just going to work up 12 rows in total, but you'll be working up 82, or go to the PDF and follow along with the pattern as to how many rows you need for your size. Okay, so I've worked up a total of 12 rows. Now again, you're going to have 82, and how you want to count your rows is by your ridges. The ridges make it really easy to count. So I like even numbers with my ribbing because it's really easy then to count the ridging. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and of course you'll have a lot more. So I'll show you the sweater that I've started here. So you're gonna have a nice long ribbing, and then we're gonna get into this nice mesh stitch pattern. So what we'll do at this point is change over to the larger hook, which is our 4.5 millimeter. And these are streamlined swirl hooks, and this is the Taurus color, which I absolutely love. And now we'll chain 1, and we'll be working single crochets across this ribbing now. So we have 12 rows, we'll have 12 stitches. You have 82 rows, you'll have 82 stitches. However many rows you do, that's how many stitches we're working across. So 1 single crochet stitch per row. So I like to kind of take a look at that ridge. So you can see this here has a little loop. I'm going to go through there. Then we have that thicker section. We're going to go through there. Then you see the little loop again. There's our third, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so once you get worked all the way across your 82 stitches, then we're going to get into our mesh stitch. This will be the right side of our work. If you really need to help remember, you can always stick a little stitch marker right on your work, and then you'll know what is the right, what is the wrong. So I'm going to turn and chain 3. Now we're going to be working a linked double crochet. Okay, so this could be a little bit new for you. They're really not that hard. It's just a little different than a regular double. So here's our chain 3. We're going to go down through that second chain. Okay. And we're going to yarn over and pull through that loop. Now we're going to go down into the next stitch without yarning over. So we're just going to go right down into the stitch. We're going to pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we'll chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip over 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. Now in the next stitch, we're going to work a double crochet. So just as normal, we'll yarn over, go through the stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we're going to do a linked double crochet. So we're going to find that bar that's going across here. So it's sort of like 1, 2, 3. You kind of see all those little loops. We're going to go through this one here. We're going to yarn over, pulling through that loop. Now we're not yarning over, we're just going down into the next stitch, pulling up a loop, and then we complete the double crochet. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So instead of having a gap, it's just linking them together. It's almost making like this is a bigger stitch section. Just getting a little bit of a tangle here. Now we'll chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skipping over 3, 1, 2, 3, and this is how the pattern just repeats itself. Chain 3, skip 3, and then a double and a linked double. So we'll yarn over, we'll do a regular double crochet, and then a linked double crochet. So again, let's look at these stitches. We've got 1, 2, 3 bars here. We're going to go through that one. We're going to yarn over, pulling through. Then we're going down into the last stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So this is just going to be repeated all the way across. So you want to make sure, mine looks like it's kind of pulling in a little bit. I've probably pulled these stitches too tight. You want to make sure to keep this loose. If you need to go up another hook size, go ahead and do that. You just don't want that the ribbing is wider than the actual stitch pattern. So now we'll turn chain 1, and this row we're just working across single crochets. So we're going to work a single crochet in the first, single crochet into the next, and in the chain 3 space we'll work 3. So 1, 2, 3. Then we'll work single in each, the double and the link double, then 3, 1, 2, 3, and then a single, and in the turning chain, another single. Okay, so that's the right side of our work. And now we'll do our double link double row again. So it's a 2-row repeat. We're just going to be repeating this back and forth. You can see how simple it is. Once you get the hang of that linked double crochet, you're all set. So we're starting every row with the chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and that is counting as a stitch. So we're counting this as our stitch throughout, okay? And when we look at the chain, it's 1, 2, 3. We're going into that second chain, just go pushing through, yarning over, pulling up a loop. So you now have 2 loops on your hook. You're going into the next stitch. Don't yarn over. That's one thing I had to, it's habit to yarn over for a double, but we're not. We're just going into the next stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Okay, and then chain 3. So just try not to do those chains too tight or it's going to pull that work in too much. We're skipping over 3, 1, 2, 3, double crochet in the next. And now I look at, again, this stitch to see those loops. We're going through the middle one. Okay, and into the next stitch. And 1, 2, 3. Just getting through this pull on this ball. So I'm getting little tangles as I go. Okay, and then we're skipping over 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, a double crochet. And I'm always just examining to find that right bar to go through, pull up a loop, right into the last stitch, pulling up a loop. I usually give a little tug too, just to make sure that's not too tight. Okay, and then chain 1 and turn. And then this row again is simple. We're just working single crochet in the first, single crochet in the next, 3 singles in the chain 3 space. And really, if you know you're a tight crocheter, you're probably going to want to go up another hook size. I'm okay to just crochet loosely and it be okay. 1, 2, 3, and then a single crochet and a single crochet in the turning chain. Okay, so you're just going to keep repeating those rows. Really simple. It's a beautiful mesh stitch. It would also look great for a market bag, but I really like this nice open look for a summer cardigan. And this is how, let me get to the right side. Okay, so this is the right side of my work here. This is how it's going to look as you keep working. Got all my yarn bits. Okay, so now this is where you can play around if you want your sweater to be longer. I know everyone doesn't maybe want the waist length. This is going to sit at the waist to go with sort of your high-waisted pants and whatnot. But if you want to make this longer, that is completely fine. You could make this into a long cardigan and that would be fine. It's not going to affect anything else. All you need to do is keep doing your repeats as long as you want. So the measurement I have, okay, is about 9 inches. So I've gone with about 9 inches. And in total, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, Is that correct? I thought I had more than that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that is how many rows I ended up doing before starting into my sleeve. So if you want to go ahead and make that longer, even if you want to make it shorter, really whatever you desire is absolutely fine. You'll just end up using more yarn if you go longer. So you can go ahead and now complete that. I'm going to meet you back up to show you how to work out the sleeves. Okay, so I've been working up my back piece until I have a total of 9 inches. So we're ending on that linked double crochet row. And now what we're going to do is work out chains for our sleeves so that this is all worked continually in one piece. So we're going to come over. I have turned my work so that I am on the right side of my work. We're going to come over to the corner, we're going to join in, and we're going to get this sleeve set up. So the sleeve will be around 15 inches. With our cuff, it will be about 17, and you can alter this in multiples of 5. I'm going to chain out 60. So just loosely chain out 60 stitches and fasten off. Okay, so once you've reached 50 or 60 stitches, we're just going to fasten that off and leave that, and then we're going to come back over and join into our working yarn. That loop is left right there, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to chain out 60, but we're going to add one more chain for our turning chain. So work out a total of 61. Just loosely chain that out, and then I'll meet you back up again. Okay, so I've chained out a total of 61. Now in the second chain from the hook, I'll work a single crochet and work single crochets all the way across the chain. Okay, so you'll have a total of 60. We'll reach the body section, and in the body we'll just work our single crochet row as normal, 1 in each stitch and 3 in the chain 3, working all the way across. And then when you get to this chain, you'll just continue working single crochets across it, 1 single crochet in each chain for a total of 60. So in total, we have our 82 stitches plus 60 plus 60. We're going to be at 202 stitches. So that is our multiple of 5 plus 2. So the pattern will just continue now working the sleeves and the body all at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and work this off camera now. I'm just going to continue in my stitch pattern. So single crochet, and then we're going to just hop back into working the same pattern that we've already been working. And what I want you to do is complete about half of the sleeve width, and I will pop up directions on how many approximate rows that should be and the width that you're looking at doing before we stop for the neck opening. Okay, so I've been working on the sleeves, and I have gone with about 7.5 inches for my sleeve width. Okay, it's about 7.5, and I went a little bit more than rows than I did for this section. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and I have 18. So I've gone a little bit more. If you don't want your arms quite as baggy and you're making this small, you could easily just do it the 16 and not 18. But because I generally wear a medium, and this is where you can customize, look at the sizes, look at the schematic. If you have a bigger arm and you'd rather a bigger sleeve, this is all you need to do. You just need to make them a bit bigger. If you have a smaller arm and you're feeling like, you know, I have a tiny arm, I don't want it that big, just reduce the rows. So I wear between a small and a medium, so I'm making the small. So I want to make sure for myself that the arm isn't too tight. So I went with that 7.5 inch mark. So it's going to give me 15 inches, but you could easily go with less if you're tiny. So now what I've done next is I've marked my neck opening. Okay, so once you've determined how many rows you need to do for your sleeves, then we're going to mark off the neck opening. So I've marked off about 7 inches for my neck opening. Okay, so it's about 7 inches. So what you are going to do is count over from each side. So I found it easiest just to count my chain 3 spaces. Now, if you're working on a different size, you're going to have a different number. But if you're working on the small, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And then I'm marking the next stitch. Okay, and then same thing on this side, 17 chain 3 spaces. I've marked here. Now also what you can do is follow this bar all the way down. And from the side down here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know I have 6 on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can follow that up. So I know that this is completely even, okay? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chain 3 spaces in between my neck. So the neck opening will be the same for all sizes, but depending on what size you're working on, you're going to be counting over a different number. So just follow along with your PDF, and then you can double check by going down and just following up those bars that it is completely even. You know, this has a little bit of a curve to it, which is normal. Once we block it, that's going to help to straighten all of the pattern out. Okay, so we're back on the right side of our work, which is our single crochet row. So what you'll do is I've already chained 1. We're going to work across just as normal. So we're going to work across in single crochets until we get to the marker, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, work my single crochets across, and I will meet you up at the marker. So we're going to work these 3 single crochet in that chain 3 space, and then we're going to stop. So I've worked across to the marker. And I'm going to end with our 2 single crochet. Okay, so all of this will remain open. Okay, so now what we'll do is chain 3. Okay, I'm going to turn my work, and then I'm going to be working now. We have to separate out at this point and work our right side and left side separately because it's a cardigan. So this is our opening. We're going to gradually bring this down into a V sort of neck so that we can have our buttons for the front. So for this row here, we're just going to work in the pattern. We won't be doing any increasing. We're just going to work across as we have been. So again, going in that second chain from the hook to do our linked remember what I did there. So go in that second chain, chain 3, skipping over 3. We're just going to keep working our pattern, okay? So this is just the same stitch pattern we've been working. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to keep working that. I'm going to come back in my single crochet, and I'm going to meet you up at that point. Okay, so I'm working back along in the single crochets. I'm coming up to my opening here. So I'm single crocheting and single crocheting into the turning chain. And I'm going to chain 3 and turn. So just continuing working in my stitch pattern here. My link double, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm going to work this across and work back my single crochet stitches again. Okay, so I'm just finishing up my single crochet row. Okay, so I'm starting to get a little bit of a nice neck opening here. I'm going to go back again, so we're going to do another row without doing any increasing. Okay, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to chain 3, turn, and just continue back in my pattern. I'm going to come back again in single crochet, and we're going to meet up then. Okay, so I'm coming across, finishing with single crochet, and we're going to go chain 3 and continue again working in our pattern. So I'm going to work across, come back again in the single crochet, and then we'll meet up. Okay, so I'm finishing up my single crochet row, and if we count, so we had the single crochet, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the 9th row that we're going to start some increases. So we're coming to the end here. I'm going to do 2 single crochet, and then I'm going to do 2 single crochet into the turning chain. Okay, so we've increased by 2 stitches. I'm going to chain 3. I am going to work my link double. I'm just going to go back down within that same stitch to complete it. Okay, then I'm going to chain 3, and we're skipping over just that one stitch. And then I'm doing my next set of bars here. 1, 2, 3, skip, and then we're just going to continue in our pattern. Okay, so work that all the way across and then come back in your single. Okay, so I just worked across in my single crochet. So ending in the turning chain. As you can see, we've basically extended this out an additional 5 stitches. So we'll go ahead and chain 3, turn. And I'm going to do this twice. So I'm going to go and do my bar row, my single crochet. I'm going to go back and do another bar row and come back with another single crochet. So 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows in total. I'll meet you up on that single crochet row. Okay, so I've come back along in single crochet, and one thing you need to keep in mind as well is your total sleeve number of rows. Okay, so I'm at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 32, 33, and I need a total of 36 for my sleeve, so I'm okay to keep going. So I don't think I'm going to do my increase on this one. I'm going to go back, and the next single crochet I'll do my final increase. So we'll just chain 3. Okay, and I'm going to go back again. I'm going to work across in singles, and then we'll do that increase on at the end of this single crochet, the next single crochet row. Okay, so I've come back. We're to our increase point. So what I'm going to do is 2 single crochet, and then in the turning chain, 2 single crochet, and then we're going to chain 3. I'll get my work turned. Going in that second chain, and I'm going to go right back down into the same stitch to do that linked double. I'll chain 3, skipping over 1 stitch, doing a double crochet into the next. You just do that again. Linked double crochet in the next. Okay, so there's that increase, and then we're just going to continue with our pattern. And this row should be now our 36th row. So for the small size, this will be as many as we need to do. So once I get across this row, I'm going to have to mark off the body, and I'll meet you up to show you how to do that. Okay, so I have a total of 36 rows. I'm going to fasten this off. Okay, we don't want any more done for our sleeve. So now we're going to need to mark off our body. And a really easy way to do it is just come down and look at our bars for the back body, and you can just follow that all the way along. And I'm going to mark this with a stitch marker. Okay, so that is marked off for the sleeve. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12 of our chain 3 spaces, which is our 60 stitches. So everything is good. Okay, so now we fastened off on our wrong side, so we're coming back to the right side. We're always doing those single crochets on the right side. If you've added a stitch marker at the beginning, like I told you, that will always help you make sure you're on track. So now what you can do is just join in. Okay, we'll work a chain 1, and we're single crocheting across. Nice and easy. You can crochet over that tail if you want to save a bit of weaving. So we're doing our 3 single crochets in the chain 3 space. And we're just working across. Okay, so I'm going to complete that row. Okay, so we've now gone out another section. So if we remember, up here I marked, we're going over that one section, another section. So now we've done all the increasing we need to do to get our front to the width that we need it. And like I say, once we add that edging around here, it's going to look a lot nicer. And when we block it, we're going to be able to smooth the shape out so that it's not going to look weird. Okay, so it's not going to be hard at all to fix that up. So now what we're going to do is just continue working in our row. So we want to do Whatever number of rows you did to the back, we need to do to the front, okay? So if you remember, let's just come back, refresh. If you've changed your number of rows, this is where you need to match it up. So I did 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14. I did 16. Okay, so we're gonna wanna do the same thing. So this is 1. We need to do another 15, okay? So we just need to get things matched up. And I'm just gonna work this off camera. I'm not gonna keep going through that with you because all we're gonna do is just go back and forth in our row. So really simple. And now we only have this small amount for the small. If you're working on a larger size, your panel will be a bit bigger. For the small, it's only a small panel I'm working. So I'm gonna work this up and then I'll meet you up for the band. Okay, so I've worked up my front panel. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And then I came back across with a row of single crochet. So we actually have 17 because this will be our base row for the band. We need to make sure we have those single crochets to slip stitch into. So I'm going to show you how to do a join as you go band. It's really easy to do. So we're going to change over to the smaller hook. And I'm going to chain out 11. Okay, so now what we'll do is single crochet in the second chain from the hook and single crochet down the chain. So we want 10 stitches just like we did on the front. We are on the back. We want this to be the same on the front. So you may want to count to make sure that you have 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got one more. Okay, so now to join this to our base row, we first are going to skip over the first stitch because that first stitch is going to be for that first row that we just made. Now we're going to slip stitch to the next 2 stitches along the base row. Now we'll turn our work, put your working yarn to the back, and we'll single crochet in the back loops only across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Chain 1 and turn, and then we'll work back down in the back loop only. 1, 2, so single crochets in the back loop only. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I have 10, and now we'll slip stitch in the next 2 stitches. We're just going to repeat this back and forth across the entire front. So I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 37 stitches. So you want a total of 37 rows across. So I'll work that across now off camera and then I'll meet you up. Okay, so I finished working across my rib band. I ended up doing only 36. I want to end at the end here. So if you came back up, you'd be at 37. and I think it would stick out from this a little bit too much. And if we fasten off here, we can use this long tail for seaming. So I suggest fastening off with a long tail, and then you can use that to seam the side of the cardigan. Okay, so for the left side, you want the right side of your work facing. So if you've marked your sweater, you'll know for sure the right side. And we'll be starting on this single crochet row. So we're going to join in right here. Here's our marker. We're going to join into this stitch. We'll work a single crochet and a single crochet in the next stitch and 3 single crochet in the chain 3 space. So we're working across in our pattern. There won't be any changes. We're basically just repeating on this side now what we did on this side. And we did not do an increase until we hit that 9th row. If you can remember, was the 9th row. It was the single crochet row, and we started the increases at the end. The only difference now with this side is at the 9th row, we'll be starting our increases at the beginning. So I'm going to just go ahead and get my 8 rows worked up, and then I'll meet you up for the 9th row when we'll do those increases, just to make sure that you're on track with the left side. Even though we worked through everything, we're basically doing the same as the right on the left now. It's just reverse, where we're doing the increases at the beginning instead of at the end. Okay, so I have worked up my 8 rows. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the 9th is where we will start the increases. So I've already chained 1. We'll work 2 single crochet in the first and 2 single crochet in the next. Okay, and then we'll just continue going across our row as normal. 3 in the chain 3 space, and so on. So now what I'll do is I'll finish working across this row, and then I'll be coming back and finishing off the increase at the end. Okay, so I've worked across, and as you can see, we're coming to the last 2 stitches. So I've done my double, link double. We'll chain 3, skip 1 stitch, and in the final stitch, we'll work a double and the linked double. Chain 1 and turn, and then we'll just work single crochets in our pattern. So now at this point, we're just working across these single crochets in our pattern, and we're going to complete 6 rows before we do the next increase. Okay, so go ahead and work up, just working in the pattern another 6 rows, and then I'll meet you back up for the next increase. Okay, so I've worked up 6 rows, and now we're going to do another increase. So we'll chain 1 and turn. We're doing the increase on the single crochet row again. So we'll add 2 single crochet in the first, 2 single crochet in the next, and then just work across in our pattern. Okay, so I'll work this all the way across in single crochets. I'll come back and we'll do the final increase at the end. Okay, so I've come across. I'm finishing with my double and my linked double, and you should have 2 stitches remaining, so we'll chain 3, skip over the stitch, and in the last stitch we'll do a double and a linked in the same stitch. Okay, and that completes our increases. So I've already marked off now. When we finish here this increase, we're also having to mark off the body because our sleeve is now complete. I have my total number of rows. So 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14, 16, 36, so I have a total of 36 for the sleeve, so I'm marking off now the body. Okay, and like I showed you before, you can always just go up from the back all the way, and if we count over from the sleeve, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, chain 3 spaces, which is our 60 stitches. So now we'll just be working this small section, completing the front panel. So we're just going to go back and forth now in our pattern. So simple, we're just working our single crochet row next, then going back in our pattern. So I want you to complete that now so that your front panel equals your same number of rows as your back. So let's just count again. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So we'll complete 16 and then we'll finish off with that single crochet row. So 17 in total, and then work the join as you go band. Okay, so I've worked across here to the last single crochet before the marker, the last stitch before the marker. Okay, so now we're just gonna chain 3 and turn. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. There should be 37 stitches that we're working for the front panel. And I'm just continuing in my stitch pattern. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and complete this off camera. Okay, so I've completed my front panel. So I've worked across that 17th row in the single crochet for a base for the ribbing. So we're just going to switch over to the smaller hook at this point, and you'll work the ribbing band exactly as we did the other side. So we'll chain 11. And then in the second chain from the hook, you'll work single crochets in every chain across. Okay, so once you get all the way down, we're going to skip the first stitch and slip stitch into the next 2. Turn, and then we're working single crochets in the back loop only of every stitch. We're just going to keep repeating this all the way across so that we have a total of 36 rows, just like we did on the other panel. Chain 1 and turn, and work back down the row. So just make sure you have 10 stitches as you go. We'll slip stitch into the next 2 along the base. Turn, and now we'll just keep repeating that across. Okay, so once you finish that, you can just fasten off with a long tail. Okay, so at this point now, I'm going to block the cardigan and lay it out on mat. So I'm going to go put it in some lukewarm water, give it a soak with just a tiny bit of wool wash or dish soap, and then I will pin it out to measurements on my blocking mat. So I'm going to go do that, and then I'll meet you up. Okay, so once you've allowed your garment to soak, I want you to squeeze it out and lay it out on the mat. So I've used 4 large mats. You may need a few more if you're working on a larger size, or if you've decided to make it longer, you may need more as well. So what you want to do is take your measuring tape and start measuring out each section. So I like to start at the back, measure the width, measure the length, and then move on to the arms, and then I go to the front and do the front panels. So I'm going to have a pop-up of the schematic so you can see what measurements you need to block to. You'll have all of the measurements included in the PDF for each size and extra small to 5X. So I usually let this dry overnight. As you can see, some of the pins have pulled in a little bit. It tends to shrink up just a tiny bit once it is fully dry, but the blocking will help stretch it out nice and give it a really pressed, finished look. So once it's all dried completely, I usually let it dry overnight. I'm just going to remove all of these pins and then we'll start seaming it together. Okay, so once you take your sweater off the blocking mats, we're going to line up right sides facing. So just fold your sweater so that the right sides are facing together. We want the wrong sides out for seaming. So I have a long tail on this side that I can use. Now we're just doing the same thing on each side. So you want to go through and seam together the band. Go through the first stitch twice. And now you're just seaming through each stitch. Okay, now once you get to our mesh, you want to make sure that you line it all up as you're sewing so that it looks good, okay, from the side. So it's just going to blend together. So just make sure to line that up as you whip stitch this side together. Okay, so I'm going to work that all the way up now to the underarm. Okay, so I'm working up here to the underarm. And then I want to make sure as I go into the sleeve that I'm lining up the stitch pattern as well. Now blocking should have helped to make sure these all match up, but just in case they're not, you just want to make sure that you're sewing that stitch pattern lines up nice and perfectly. That way, it's going to look so much better finished. Now, if you ran out of yarn at that point, I suggest starting down at the end of the sleeve and working up to the underarm and weave your ends at the underarm. But I should have enough here to continue. So you'll want to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, I'm just finishing up here. I'm going to weave my tail. And I have another tail I need to weave as well, which I'll do before moving on. Okay, and we just want to go back in the opposite direction. And when I weave the other tail, I like to choose just a different place to weave it, not the exact same, because we don't want to bump up the fabric too much in one section. So I'll weave this tail as well. I'm going to take it over to this section to weave it. Okay, so once everything's seamed, you want to put the sweater now so that your right side's facing out so that your sweater's in the right position. And I've already worked one of my cuffs. So as you can see, I'm pulling in my cuff so it's a little bit snugger. So I'll show you how to do the other sleeve. So what you want to do first off is find the seam, because we'll join in to the seam, and I'm going to use my smaller hook. Just need to make a hole there and push your hook through. Okay, so now what we'll do is chain 1, and we'll work a single crochet into that first stitch. Just a little snug on that first one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is for every space, I'm going to add a single crochet, and every post area here, I'll add a single crochet. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to work that all the way around. So I've worked around a total of 38 stitches. I'm going to slip stitch to join. And now we'll do the join as you go ribbed band. And to do this, we'll chain out 11. So we're working this really just like I showed you with the front panels, except we're working it now in the round. So we're going to work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and down our chain. So we're going to have 10 stitches. I like to always count just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9. We should have one more. 10. So now we'll skip the first, slip stitch into the next 2. We're going to turn and work a single crochet in the back loop only. Chain 1 and turn. Okay, and now we're going back down. Okay, and we'll slip stitch in the next 2. Okay, attaching it to the sleeve. So we're just going to keep now working back and forth. You're going to work all the way around. So we have 38 rows. We're going to be ending up at the top. So the final, when we get all the way around, you should just have 1 slip stitch and then work back up and then fasten it, or actually we'll slip stitch it together. So I'll work around my 38 rows and then I'll meet you up at the end. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. I'm ending at the end and I've chained 1. So now we want to slip stitch them together. And I want the wrong sides facing, or sorry, the right sides facing, wrong sides out. So you just can take it and fold it like this. I've already chained one, and now what we're going to do is just slip stitch. You could seam it together as well, but this way you don't have to fasten off. I'm going to come over to this side, going through, and then going through the back loop on this side and just slip stitch. Okay, and you're just working down through each stitch, going through the chain on this side, back loop only on this side. Once you've worked that all the way down, you can fasten off, and then we're just going to weave in this tail. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is the edging and doing our ribbing with our buttonholes. So I have kind of just spaced out how I think I would like. I think I would just like 3 buttons. So I'm thinking kind of like this idea. If you wanted more buttons, or you're using smaller buttons, you could go ahead and do that. I think the ribbing is going to be this width. So this 35mm button looks really nice, so that's what I would go with. And I don't want it too heavy on the front with 4, so I'm just going to go with 3 buttons. Keep them down maybe like this. So what I need to start out by doing is making a base row. Anytime we do the ribbing, we want to have that nice base single crochet row. So I'm going to evenly space single crochet stitches all the way around my edge. So I'm going to come and join right on here, and I'm going to use my smaller hook for this. Okay, and then what we're going to do is chain 1. You know, we're going to have 10 up the ribbing here. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we need to evenly space our stitches. You don't want too many, you don't want too few. So we're putting about 2 into this thicker section, and then 1, and then 2 into. Okay, so then what you can do is you can always look back at your work. You want to make sure that it's not bunching up too much and it's not pulling too tight. But if you're going with 1 in this section and then 2, it should work out good. So I'm going to work that all the way around, and I will meet you up on the other side. So now when you get to the neckline, which you'll be going across this section, we'll just work it as if we were working our pattern. So I've come up the side here, and then now I'm going to do 3 single crochet in the chain 3 space, and then I'll work a single and a single in those doubles. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. Okay, so it's just going to look like our regular pattern. And then we're coming to the edge again, so we're doing 1 and then 2, 1 and then 2, and just working my way down now this side. Okay, so I've worked all the way to this side. Now what we want to do is start doing the join as you go ribbing. So this is just over about 2 inches, just maybe over, which is what we need to close in our gap. So I'm going to go with the same amount, so the 10 stitch ribbing. Now I won't have to do my buttonholes until I get over to the other side. So I have quite a length I have to go before we start worrying about buttonholes. I'm gonna make, I think for this size button, I'm gonna go with about 4, a chain 4, skip 4 for this button. So let me show you again how to do the ribbing. It's no different really than how we've been doing this throughout the pattern. So we'll chain 11, and this is the smaller hook. So we'll work in the second chain from the hook, 1, 2, and we're working single crochets. Okay, so there is 10. Just gotta get through that right. 10 stitches. Okay, so what we do now, always with the first, we skip the first stitch, slip stitch into the next 2. And then we're gonna go back, working in the back loop only, 10 stitches, 2, chain 1 and turn, single crochet in the back loop only, now with this being a crop cardigan, it won't take you as long. If you've lengthened it, your band will take a little bit longer to work. Okay, slip stitch in the next 2, and then we're just going to keep joining this band as we go. So we'll work back up, back down, slip stitch 2, and just continue in this manner. You're going to work that now. Let me see. I'm going to mark off, I think, for the buttons, just so you know how far to come before we start into those buttonholes. Okay, so this is how I'm gonna mark this out. So my bottom buttonhole, I'm gonna want it to sit obviously right down here. Now, as you can see, we want the buttonhole to be in this area right here. Now I'm gonna just measure roughly how far apart okay, so you just want to evenly space them. Now I know my buttonhole is going to need to go right about here. Okay, so I know when I get to this row, I need to add my buttonhole. And then I want to evenly space. So I can sit my button here, and I know that coming across, So 1, 2, 3, probably the fourth. I would say the fourth we would need. To make that buttonhole, the fourth or the fifth. So now I want to evenly space my other buttonhole between these stitches. Okay, so I have 22, so I need an odd number. So I think because I was on the fence with this one, I'm gonna move it up. Move that buttonhole up one round. Then I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we now have 10 stitches between. Okay, so you see how I just figured that out? So you could easily change this up for your own cardigan. And if you made it longer, this is kind of the idea you want. So you want to space them out evenly, okay, your holes. And you're thinking that your hole needs to go roughly in the center of each of your buttons. Okay, so if we look at it like this, that's going to evenly center them out, and this button should be able to slide through those holes. So if you have a longer cardigan, space them out like this. Every in the 11th stitch, so 10 stitches in between, is good for, I think, this 35mm button size. So now what I can do is I can continue working my ribbing all the way until I get to this marker, and then I will make sure I do the buttonhole. So what I will do, if it's going to be a 4-stitch opening, I'm going to, so I'll single crochet 3, I'll then skip 4, chain 4, skip 4, and then single crochet 3. I'll try my button at that point, and if it's too tight or too loose, you can just adjust how many stitches, okay? So that's all you do, is you want to make your hole and then test your button to make sure it slides through that hole well, and then if not, you can adjust. So I have a bit of work ahead of me before I get to this point, so I'm gonna just start working my join as you go ribbing all the way around, and I'll meet you back up when I get to the buttonhole. Okay, so as you can see, I've been working all of the ribbing around, and I'm coming to my first marker. Now, depending on the size you're working on, you may hit the marker differently. So let me just explain how the ribbing works. So the first slip stitch will be the row coming back up. The second slip stitch will be the row coming back down. So depending on where your marker is will depend on where you need to add your hole. So I'm coming to the marker for the first row. So we'll slip stitch 2, turn, and now my buttonhole will be on the first row. If it had been the second stitch, it would be the next row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll single crochet 1, 2, 3, and now I'll chain 4. I will skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and single crochet in the back loop only of the last 3. So this will be the first row of our buttonhole. Chain 2 and turn. Work in the back loop only of the first 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then we'll work a single crochet across the buttonhole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the back loop only of the next 3. Okay, so we have the buttonhole made, and you just want to make sure that your button will slide through. Now that could potentially be a little loose, but I think it's going to be okay. Otherwise, you would need to, if you're thinking for your button it maybe is a little too loose, maybe just do 3 stitches, and you can choose whatever side you want to add your extra stitch. Or if the button's even smaller, only do 2. Now I'll slip stitch into the next 2. Turn, and I'll continue now to work until I get to the next marker. Now another thing you may consider is not doing buttons at all, and you could totally have this cardigan without any buttons or any buttonholes and it would still look nice. Okay, so I'm coming up to my next marker. This time it's the 2nd stitch, so I'll be able to show you now how the button is made both ways. So we'll slip stitch in the next 2. Okay, and we will work single crochets in the back loop only across. Chain 1 and turn. Now we'll work a single crochet in the next 3 in the back loops only. Chain 4. Keep those chains nice and tight. Skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and single crochet in the back loop only of the next 3. Okay, slip stitch into the next 2. Turn. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Chain 1 and turn. Okay, so then we've made our next buttonhole, and now we'll continue just working down again to the next marker to make the next buttonhole. Okay, so I'm coming to my last buttonhole. This time it's the 1st. So I'll slip stitch in the next 2. And I'll make the buttonhole on this 1st row. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And because I know I need to keep this a little snug, I've just made those chains nice and tight. 1, 2, 3, 4. And single crochet in the back loop the next 3. Chain 1 and turn. Single crochet in the back loop of the first 3. And 4 tight single crochets, back loop of the next 3, okay, and we're almost complete. So I'm just going to finish that now off camera. Okay, so I'm finishing off with a slip stitch, and I'm not going to work back up because I think that this finishes it off nice. It really just blends in. If I go back up one more, I think it's going to look a little off. So I'm going to finish it off there. And I'll just weave in this tail. Okay, so next is you're going to want to sew on your buttons opposite your buttonholes. Okay, so you're just going to take your yarn needle, okay, so just add on your other two buttons as well. And just make sure that you have sewn them in the correct place before trimming and knotting your ends. Okay, so the buttons are sewn on. So they should just easily go through. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome day.